At the start of home computing, most computers had the basic programming language built in, and so people would sit at home programming in basic little games into their machines because there wasn't much software at the very beginning. And then as the software market grew, people would still continue programming in basic because it was a big interest at the time. So there wasn't long before some computer magazines came out where you could actually submit your programs into the computer magazines, and they would publish the listings and credit your name to the listing, so you could have some kind of accolade related to your programming skills. Now, I submitted a program to three different magazines. I'm pretty sure it was probably the same program submitted to three different magazines. I got rejection letters from each of the magazines, and I've held on to the rejection letters, so I'll go through them now and show you the differences between rejection letters for three different magazines. And my first computer was an X81. I got that when I was about 11, so that would have been in 1981. And it had the built-in 1K of RAM, and the person that had actually sold it to my parents, because it was a Christmas present, so I didn't actually go and see the person, but they'd made a 4K RAM pack on the back of it. I thought it was incredible. I thought they must have been some kind of genius at the time for actually being able to add their own RAM pack onto the back of it. But these rejection letters are from 1985, so I would have been on the ZX Spectrum by then. So whatever program I submitted, it would have been for ZX Spectrum. I've probably still got that program somewhere in the loft because I'm pretty sure I've still got all my tapes in the loft. But I can't remember exactly what the actual application or program that I actually submitted was. The first letter is for Sinclair User, and my parents actually purchased for me all of the Sinclair User magazines each month and the Sinclair Programs magazines. So by the end, I had the full collection of them. And so this letter is like on proper letter paper. It's kind of a yellowy color, but it's not yellowed with age. It's the yellowing is because it's the quality, and you can feel it's got some thickness to the paper as well. And as you can see, it's also dated, and it's got my name and address at the time that I submitted the program. So it's a very personalised letter, and it looks like a daisy wheel printer. It's a very good quality. It's not dot matrix, that's for sure. So if I bring it a bit closer, you can see it's very good quality, and you can also see it's been personally signed in proper pen. So they took some time to actually prepare these letters for just for rejection of all the programs. If you look at the actual content of the letter, it says it was rejected and therefore they're returning it. So they returned all of the programs that they didn't use to the actual people that submitted them. It also says we receive around 200 programs every month, so it takes a little while to process them. So that's the Sinclair User one, and the letterhead is proper letterhead, so it's kind of a purpley colour. So the ink is for the daisy wheel printer is black, the pen is blue, and you can see it's a proper letterhead paper, so showing the quality of the paper in a kind of a blue purple kind of colour. I guess the colour of the magazine header at the time. But the next one that I'm going to show is for your Sinclair. Now, didn't actually get these magazines, so it must have been that I submitted it to this magazine just because it was another magazine out at the time for the Sinclair, and so I thought, well, I'll try and submit to all of them. And you can see from these lines that they're kind of little grey lines down here that it's a photocopied letter, and also it's very grey on the letterhead, so it's not proper letter. Well, the original that they photocopied from probably had the proper letterhead, and then it's probably a daisy wheel printer, but again, it's photocopied. It's a photocopied letter. There's no personal signature, no name and address. Very little personalisation in this. So this is just like a mass photocopy rejection letter. So not as personal as the Sinclair User magazine, and maybe it had a bigger readership, and so they didn't have really time or anything to actually put into returning stuff. But what they do is they say give clues as to the kind of things that they want and what they don't want in programs, just so that if you submit again, you get a better chance of being included in the magazine. It doesn't mention anywhere about getting the cassette returned to you, so they probably didn't return the cassettes, but that's okay. I can imagine that it would be very expensive for them too, because I'm pretty sure I didn't include a self-addressed envelope in the actual submission. And the third one is Sinclair Programs, and you can see on this one that again it's photocopied because it's a lot grayer, and the letterhead shows you that it's photocopied letterhead. This one is slightly personalised because it's got my name on it, so they've actually written on top of the photocopied automatic responses, and also signed as well. So there's a bit of personalisation in it, but it's a mass produced, just photocopied response. But what they do point out in this letter is that I didn't enclose a stamped addressed envelope, and so they won't be returning my cassette to me. So I guess they probably had a couple of responses, one where people did include a self-addressed envelope and one where they didn't. But it shows that there's like various different approaches to the way that these magazines responded to submissions. And I guess they all had different readership, and they had different kind of approaches to their magazines as well. Sinclair Programs was mostly about printing programs, not that many articles, a bit of advertising. Sinclair User had quite a bit of advertising, if I remember rightly, and plenty of articles and fewer submissions of programs that they actually printed. I don't really remember your Sinclair. I didn't get that many of those, but it's probably more like Sinclair User than it would have been like Sinclair Programs.